Welcome to this week's vlog. It's so good to have you with me. And as I record, the sun is shining, the sky is blue, but the forecast is for some rain later. But all part of the British weather. That's what we like to talk about, isn't it? Now I wonder, well, I'm pretty sure that at some time all of us have found or discovered that we've lost something, and it can be so frustrating because we struggle to find it. Maybe sometimes we don't even find it. We don't know where it went. How could I have lost that? The other morning I went out into town. I had to go to the bank. And when I got back, I realised I didn't have the key to the door. Our bungalow has got a front door, which we don't use all that often, and a side door, which we tend to go out of when we leave and return. And I came back. I thought maybe I didn't lock the door because I knew Sue was still in the house. And so I tried the back door, locked. Went back to the car, looked around, searched. Couldn't find the key. What's happened to it? Looked in my pockets. Anyway, in the end, I had to knock on the door, and eventually Sue came and let me in. And I explained to her that I lost the key, couldn't find it. She said, "Have you looked in your pockets?" And she went to the car because I'd taken the car into town. And looked in the car, not there. So after much searching, very frustrating, we couldn't find it, and I assumed that I lost it. So we made arrangements. Sue was going out the following day, and so I suggested that she go and get another key cut. Fortunately, we did have a spare, but that would entail expense, and it would be frustrating. How could I lose the key? All I did was walk from the back door to the car and then into town. So how could I lose it in that short? Anyway, there we go. Now the story continues, because the following morning, as I was just waking up, I suddenly had, I don't know what it was. Was it God speaking to me? Was it a memory coming back? I felt the key is in the car, in the boot of the car. So when I got the car out, I opened the boot, and lo and behold, there was the key. I must have dropped it when I put my bag in before going into town. So what was lost has been found, and that's really the theme of what I want to share about today. Because earlier in the week, I was talking to someone who was telling me that they'd made lots of bad choices in their life, and that had led them into some bad places, and they felt so far away from God. The relationship with God that they once had, they felt that it was almost severed. They could not sense God in their life anymore. They felt so far away from God because of their wrong choices. And I told them, in this conversation, I mentioned that in the previous Sunday, the theme of the sermon had been on who we call the prodigal son. In Luke chapter 15, Jesus tells three stories of something that's been lost: the lost coin, the lost sheep, and the lost son, or the prodigal son. And I explained to this person I was talking to, who felt far away from God, that they were lost. He didn't use that word, but that's what they felt. About the story, the remarkable story of the prodigal son. It's one of the most well-known stories that Jesus told. A son asks his father for his share of the inheritance. Now, of course, normally you get your share of the inheritance when your parents die. So in effect, the son was saying to his dad, "Dad, I want you to die. I want your money. I want your possessions." And generously, remarkably, the father, we're told, gave the son his inheritance. And the son goes off to a foreign land where he squanders the money. Everything he's got till he's got nothing. And when he's got nothing, he finds that all his so-called friends have deserted him. And he ends up with a dead-end job looking after the pigs. And he's desperately hungry. He even wants to eat the food that the pigs have. And then we're told he comes to his right mind. He comes to his senses. And he says, "I'll go home and I'll say how sorry I am to my dad." And say, "Look, I'm not worthy to be called your son, but just let me be a servant. Because he knew that his father's servants had plenty of food. So he returned, he sets off on the way home. And even before he gets home, as he goes over, comes over the brow of the hill, his dad, who's been waiting, longing for him to return, sees him and he runs to him. Something that a respectable gentleman in that time would not do, but he runs to him, he embraces him. He says, "Oh, son, I'm so glad you're back." He embraces him and he throws a party for it. That is God's amazing grace. The son had wanted his father dead. He'd squandered all his possessions, and yet his father embraces him. So when I was talking with this person who felt far from God, felt lost, I mentioned the story of the prodigal son and how God's grace is amazing and longs to embrace us as we turn back to him. But this person said, I feel that God is judging me. I'm under judgment. I don't feel that God wants me back. But they find it really so hard to understand or accept that, yes, they'd done things that were wrong. They'd made bad choices. They had wandered away from God and God's path. But God longed to welcome them back, to embrace them. God's love never stopped. There's a verse in the Bible that says, God shows his love for us in this: it was while we were yet sinners that Christ died for us. Jesus died on the cross for us, knowing that we are sinful people, knowing that we often let God down. Whatever we've done, whatever our life has been like, however far from God we've been, he longs to draw us back to himself. And that's the remarkable story of the lost son. And that applies to every one of us. Don't feel that you're too bad for God to love you, because there's nothing we can do to stop God loving us. Nothing that we can do to make God love us more or make God love us less. His love is so truly amazing. Jesus died for us on the cross so that we can be reconciled to God. And that is the glorious good news of the gospel. Whoever we are, whatever our past, whatever our mistakes, our wrong choices, God longs to embrace us, forgive us in Jesus, and draw us back to himself. So that's the good news of the gospel. And I hope and pray that you know and understand that. And perhaps you come across someone soon who needs to hear that message. God bless you. Thank you so much for listening today.